according to the cloud. And then I'm going to share my screen and share my fun slides with you all. All right. Can we all see my first slide there? Nod. Yes. And you can hear me? Awesome. Perfect. And we're recording. All right, guys. So my name is Next Jen, and I want to welcome and thank you for coming today. I know how precious a commodity time is, and I don't take for granted that you've chosen to spend this next hour-ish with me. It's really, I don't know where to look quite. So I want to be mindful of your time. I'm going to be taking questions at the end of the presentation. So if you have them, you can put them in the chat and I'll go through and answer those all the way at the end, just so we can kind of keep this flowing and try to get through it in a timely fashion. So before I even introduce myself, I want to start out with this little tidbit. Only 12% of Americans are considered metabolically healthy. This comes from a study from the University of North Carolina's Gillings School of Global Public Health. This means that more Americans have excess fat around the midsection, hypertension, high blood sugar, high triglycerides, a poor cholesterol profile, and are overweight. Ladies, I don't want you to be one of those Americans. I want you to be one of the 12% that are metabolically healthy. I want to help you understand how with a few simple diet and lifestyle changes, you can have more energy, more focus, be happier, sleep better, find more time in your day, and have all the self-love. I want you to thrive, not just survive. So I try to empower women to make better choices by giving them education and support, taking away overwhelm, frustration, and confusion, replacing it with confidence, self-love, and taking action. One of my mottos is health first. So you need to be healthy from the inside out. That means that your actions and your habits throughout the day are prioritized by you trying to be healthy, not necessarily trying to look a certain way for aesthetics. But the bonus to that is as we get healthier, we tend to look better. So it becomes a byproduct. So I'm doing this talk today because I know how frustrating the fitness industry is. We were just talking a little bit about that. Fats are bad. Eat fats. Eat whole grains, don't eat too many carbs. CrossFit's king. CrossFit will injure you. Do cardio to lose weight, but don't do too much cardio. There's so much conflicting information and it's easy to get overwhelmed. And when we're overwhelmed, we do nothing. So I'm not here to sell you on any certain diet or exercise plan. I believe in individuality. I want to tell you how your body works and how it responds to what you're doing. So in the end, I'll give you 3 different things that you can do today to start feeling better. 3 easy things that we can all start with. And if you stick around to the very end, I'm going to offer you access to a free gut health challenge that I'm running. I'll give you easy meal plans to follow with a few supplements to reset your digestive system, because I want you to see how powerful it is to really feel better just by changing what we put in our body food-wise. And doing this as a group makes it a little bit easier than if you try to do something like this on your own. You're going to have a lot more support. So who am I? I'll give you the short version. I just posted the longer version on my social media. You'll have access to that at the end if you want to check it out. I posted it through 4 different posts. But basically, I was a gymnast in high school, and that's where I started to learn how to lift weights. I feel very grateful for my gymnastics coach for that. From there, I got into bodybuilding shows, which is where that picture on the left comes in. This was where my disordered eating habits were picked up, along with body image issues. I was constantly judged by the way that I looked. It went restrict, get lean, love my body, binge, gain weight, hate my body. And I did this over and over and over again. Each time, it was harder to get lean and a heck of a lot easier to gain weight afterwards. From there, I got into Krav Maga and CrossFit, and I competed in both of those. I went paleo, which meant no carb to me. I lost my job, changed careers. My husband was arrested, lost my condo, just a little bit of stress. So I ended up suffering from chronic insomnia, horrible digestive issues. I was bloated all the time. Hormone imbalance. I didn't have a period for 10 years. Debilitating brain fog and fatigue. I had a lack of motivation, no desire, and self-hatred, big time. Coming back from that place was really hard, and it took 10 years, a lot of money, and many doctors and supplements. My three biggest takeaways from that time. Number one, what we put in and on our body directly impacts how we look, feel, and perform. I don't think we give that enough credit, that the food and the things that we put in our body directly impact how we're feeling. Number two, stress management. And I dislike that word. I like to think of it more as drains and charges, kind of like you're a battery, things that charge us or drain us. That system might be more important for your weight loss goals than the perfect diet or exercise plan, keeping in mind that improper diet and exercise can both be stressors. Number three, hashtag mindset matters. Negative thinking is a massive drain on your battery. What do you think when you look in the mirror every day? What do you say to yourself? What are the thoughts that you're thinking? Our thoughts and emotions drive our action. The way that you feel determines how you show up in the world. The empowering part about that is it's a choice, and you can change the way that you feel by changing your thoughts. This is a really passionate topic for me, and today's not about mindset, but it is a big factor in getting the results that we want. Oh, we'll go through these one more time. All right, before I go any further, I have a favor to ask you. I need you to keep an open mind. So at this point, you might be thinking, I know what she's going to say. That doesn't work for me. I've already tried that. But it's hard to learn what you already know. By thinking that you already know something won't work, you've really closed off the possibility to learn something new or the chance of making a change. You see, your way of thinking and knowing got you to where you are today, which I'm guessing isn't where you want to be because you're here with me to learn more. So my favor is that you remain open-minded. You might just hear old information with new ears. Something may click this time and have a different meaning for you. So what is metabolism? Your metabolism is all of the processes in your body that convert food to the energy you need to sustain your life. So you need energy for things like breathing, cellular repair, circulating blood, exercise, thinking, all of it. Most of your metabolism lives in your lean mass. So think organs like the brain and liver, and muscle mass. This is why as we get older, we tend to lose muscle mass, and we're losing some of that places where our metabolism lives, right? So it's not that our metabolism per se slows, we just lose some of that because we're losing muscle mass. So one way to change your metabolic rate is by changing your lean mass to body fat ratio. More lean mass means you're burning more energy. That doesn't mean you have to look like a bodybuilder. I say that and people automatically picture tons of muscle, but you need to understand how important having muscle is. When people say they want to lean out or tone up, they're referring to a certain look, and that look has more muscle mass and less body fat. Muscle's very protective for our bodies, especially as we age. It's important for bone density, for coordination. Having muscle lowers your risk for injury, protects against insulin resistance, and it even helps with our immune system and fighting chronic diseases. There's a huge variance in metabolic rates between people, even if they're the same weight. So your age, body comp, genetics, gender, diet history, all of these are factors. And guys, you don't damage your metabolism. It's not broken. It's doing what it's supposed to. It's compensating and reacting to what you are doing. The inputs that you give it, it reacts to. You may not like it, but your metabolism doesn't care that you want a six-pack. It wants to keep you alive. And as women, we have to understand that at certain stages in our life, our body wants us to have more body fat. We need to have a certain amount of body fat to be able to have children. And even if you don't want to have children, your body doesn't know that. It still wants you to carry a certain amount. So it's just something that we have to understand and appreciate. So what is compensation? What is metabolic compensation? Well, it starts with increased hunger. So if we're under eating, overtraining, too stressed, you're going to notice you're hungrier more often. You have cravings for things. Your energy is unstable or it's low. Your metabolic rate starts to slow. You're not getting weight loss results or strength results if that's your goal. And from there it progresses. Sleep and mood issues, You get that wired and tired feeling. You have severe brain fog, fatigue, lack of motivation, depressed, anxious, digestive issues, no libido, body aches and pains. You're getting injured all the time. And from there, it turns into disease, hypothyroidism, autoimmunity, PCOS, IBS, and more. Your metabolism is not static. It's not a set number. Like I said, it's reactive. It changes based on what you're doing. It's important to know that. It's like a thermostat. So when things get too low, you try to reduce your calories too low, the body kicks in protective mechanisms to bring it back up, to get back to that set point where it wants to be. And you need to know it's going to fight harder against you losing weight than putting weight on, unfortunately. Who designed that? But metabolism is not the whole story, as you're going to learn here. You can't blame gaining weight on a fast or slow metabolism. So let's understand why losing weight is more than eat less and exercise more. And these images come from Precision Nutrition, which is where I'm certified through. So changes in body stores, and I say that because I'm talking about the tissues that are available for breakdown, meaning I'm not referring to water or blood, but things like fat, muscle, organ, bone, things like that. Equal energy in minus energy out. That's true. Like, we can't deny that. But it's not that simple. Really, the formula looks like this. Changes in body stores equals actual calories in minus calories not absorbed minus resting metabolic rate, thermic effective eating, physical activity, and non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Phew, what does that mean? So to calories in, the calories on food labels can be off by as much as 20 to 25%. That's a lot. So if you're eating something that has 100 calories, it could potentially have 125, or it could really have 75. And in the context of our meals, where we're having multiple different foods in our meals that could be off, and we eat 3 to 5 times a day, that's a lot of opportunity for a big variance in that number. And this is why counting calories is not perfect. The amount of calories a food had also isn't necessarily what we absorb, store, or use. You're going to absorb less energy from minimally processed carbs and fats, as they're harder to digest. So think whole foods. We absorb more energy from processed carbs. They're basically pre-digested. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. We also absorb more energy from foods that are cooked, chopped, soaked, or blended. They're basically pre-broken down. The more something's pre-broken down, it loses some of its structure. We absorb more energy from it. Highly processed foods are also less filling. They've got more energy and they're easier to overeat. And again, we're going to cover nutrient density and calorie density later. Also, depending on the type of gut bacteria you have, you can absorb more or less energy from your foods. So all of these things affect our calories in. So it's not just as simple as thinking, I'm getting this many calories. There's variables. To calories out, resting metabolic rate. So that is all of the functions that your body goes through to live without movement. So think breathing, thinking, hormones, like all that stuff. That's your resting metabolic rate. That's 60 to 70% of the calories that you burn. That's a big number. Most of the calories that you burn a day come from something that you have no control over. This varies person to person, body weight, sex, gender, predispositions, gut microbiome, like all of these things factor into what that resting metabolic rate is. It's different, and it's different for you at different times in your life. You'll see in a minute how that changes. Two people weighing the same amount, you can have two people weighing 150 pounds. One can burn 1,500 calories resting metabolic rate, and one can be burning 1,750 for no apparent reason, at least not to our eyes. Then there's the thermic effect of eating, and that accounts for 5 to 10% of the calories you burn a day. So that means the calories it takes to eat and digest and process your foods. Think like the meat sweats. Have you ever eaten a lot of meat and you start sweating? That's your body trying to break that down. You're burning a lot of calories trying to eat that, trying to break down that meat. When you eat protein, interesting fact, 20 to 30% of the calories in protein is what it takes to break that food down. So when you eat something that's higher protein, you're expending more calories just trying to digest it. Carbs are 5 to 6%. Fat is 0 to 3%. We are really good, really efficient at digesting fat. So this is where macronutrients matter. If you eat the same amount of calories in protein and carbs, you're going to burn more calories eating the protein, so you will absorb less. I hope that makes sense. Physical activity. So Karen, this is what we were talking about. 5 to 10% of the calories you burn a day are from physical activity. Just 5 to 10%. This is why you cannot outtrain a bad diet. What you put in your body, you train 3 to 5 times a week, you eat 3 to 5 times a day. Exercise is not the way to regulate our body weight. It doesn't work like that. Only 5 to 10% of the calories you burn a day come from exercises like walking and running and weightlifting. And then we have NEAT, which is all of the other fidgeting, blinking, moving, walking, all of those other movements that's considered non-exercise activity. And that accounts for 10 to 15%. So this is where like step counting came in. All the programs that try to get you to take more steps, it's trying to increase your NEAT. So it's a non-stressful way to burn more calories throughout the day that doesn't send the body into this compensating mode. So here's why we get frustrated. We feel like we're doing everything right, but we're not getting any results. Your body fights for homeostasis. That means it wants balance. So when you try to diet, reduce your calories, it responds. And that response is moderate at first, but the more you do it, the more it ramps up. When energy in goes down, energy out goes down to match. And sometimes you don't even realize energy out is going down because it's happening in your resting metabolic rate, your NEAT, things that you can't control. So you try to lower more calories in to accommodate, but then your body keeps fighting and lowering your calories out. Now you're hungry, you're crabby, you're craving all the carbs. So eventually your energy in goes back up because you can't control. But now you're having shame and guilt for not being able to control yourself when it's not your fault. It's just your body was responding. You didn't know what was happening underneath the surface level. And so you're blaming yourself. So here's what this looks like on a graph. The dotted line, that's your calorie intake. The blue line's your metabolic rate, and the red line, that's your weight. So in the beginning, they're all together on the far left of that graph. But then let's say you want to go on vacation. So you're going to drop your calories. So the dotted line goes down. So weight and metabolic rate also drop with it. But then what happens while you're on vacation? We eat all the food. We drink all the drinks. So calories go up. Well, weight's going to go up with it, but weight goes up more than the amount of calories that you've eaten. And that's because look at your metabolic rate, the blue line. It didn't come up nearly as high as the other two. So now you're eating more calories, but you're also burning less calories. And that's why your weight goes up higher. Your body ramped up your hunger without you being aware. And so that's going to look like a few bites here, a few bites there, one more pizza night during the week, one more night going out, but it's not even something that you're aware of. So you stay there until you hate the way you look, you decide you have to do something, you have to change it, and you decide to cut calories again. Your weight drops, but look at the blue line, your metabolic rate. It drops even farther this time. Now your cravings and hunger are so out of control, you quit the diet, and again, shame and guilt for not being strong enough to stick with it. This is called adaptive thermogenesis. That means your metabolism slows down way more than necessary for what you're doing or your age or your body count. And scientists aren't sure why this happens, just that it happens. Tell me in the chat if this resonates with you. Who can resonate with this? Is this something that you do? Do you cycle between higher and lower calories like this, either consciously or unconsciously? So how do we fix this? What do we do? First and foremost, we need consistency. No more binging and restricting. No more 1,000 calorie days, 1,200 calorie days, and then 3,000 calorie days. Your body needs to feel safe. I'm going to share some principles of healthy eating and then how we can read the body to see how we need to adjust that. Guys, the answer to most of our problems is food. It starts with food, the quantity, but also the quality of the food that we're eating. It affects all of our systems. And I need you to know this is a journey. This is not something that you're going to leave here today and do everything perfect. In fact, you may have been on many calls like this and heard the same message before. And maybe you started to take action, but then you didn't. This is how journeys work. We progress, we slide back. We progress, we slide back. We hear the same message over and over and over again. And one day something clicks, or we start to feel a little bit better, and then we start to build on that. So just know this is a journey, and that I want to teach you these principles so that as you go through your journey, you have the basic principles, to use the word again, that you can adapt with. So as your body changes, as your life changes, you know what to do and how to adapt with it. Guys, in 10 years, you aren't going to care what you looked like today. You're not going to care what your body weight was. What you will care about is what your relationship to food was, what your relationship to your body was, and what example you were sending to your kids. So first, we need to understand food. I'm going to give you the framework of how I look at food. I need you to know there is no such thing as good or bad foods. Can we say it together? There is no such thing as good or bad foods. Guys, this creates a mindset around food that doesn't serve us. Understand this, and choosing foods gets so much easier. So if food's not good or bad, how do we look at food? We look at the macronutrients that it gives us: protein, fat, and carbs. So this is kind of where counting macros comes in. I'm not totally a fan. Counting macros is just a way to manage your diet, but it's looking at the macronutrients. I believe you can still kind of gauge your macronutrients without having to literally track them in an app. So let's talk about protein first. Protein's important to build hair, skin, nails, enzymes, all of that. We don't store a ton of protein in the body, so we need a constant intake. What foods have proteins? Animal meats like turkey, chicken, beef, lamb, fish, eggs. There's protein powders. Some vegan sources can be tempeh, tofu, seitan. Foods like dairy, peanut butter, beans, they have protein, yes, but they aren't mostly protein. So when I go through these categories, I want to classify the foods what they're made of mostly. There are foods that carry over from one category to another. Then there's fats. Your body needs healthy fats from things like avocado, olive oil, nuts and seeds. Egg yolks are a great source of fat. Fats are needed in our body to absorb certain vitamins, for our hormones. Your cell membranes are all wrapped in fat. It's essential to get them from our diet. They're a must. This is where omega-3s come in. So that's got to be a real buzzword. There's omega-3s and omega-6s. They're two types of fat. Both of them are necessary for us. They're essential fatty acids. Omega-6s are just super prevalent, and they're more inflammatory, where omega-3s are more anti-inflammatory. And so we want to try to really make sure we're getting in sources of omega-3s in our diet. Things like salmon, mackerel, cod liver oil, oysters, sardines, and then flax, chia, and walnut are some nuts and seeds that you can get omega-3s from. So I don't like to use the word bad in relation to anything, but trans fats, guys, are bad. They are bad. We don't want trans fats. You're going to find that in highly processed foods, fried foods. Technically, they're illegal, but they keep sneaking in somehow. Then we have carbs. So carbs are going to be fruits, vegetables, potatoes, plantains, oatmeal, and also cupcakes, ice cream, cookies, pastries, all the yummy carbs. Those are all carbs. Every time we eat food, we're sending a certain message to our body, to your hormones. Higher protein and fiber meals going to digest more slowly, keep you full longer. A higher carbohydrate meal, the body dumps insulin, we get blood sugar crashes, not good. Protein is always a constant. So we want to have a high protein, veggie, fiber diet. Individuals are going to vary in their tolerance to carbs and fats. That's what you want to play with. So coming back to carbs, I want to talk about nutrient density and calorie density here. I want you to think of this on a spectrum. So food's not good or bad. It's just higher or lower in nutrients and calories. So foods like fruits and vegetables have a lot of nutrients, a lot of water, a lot of fiber, which means they have less calories. Foods like whole grains, dairy, nut butters, those are going to be more moderate. They've got moderate nutrients, moderate calories. And then there's donuts and cookies and ice cream, which tastes delicious, by the way, but they've got very few nutrients and a whole lot of calories. This doesn't make them bad, though. They just have more calories, and we need to make sure we make that association. Calling something bad makes us feel wrong for having them. And then we literally evoke the stress response in the body. Now we're producing more cortisol, and we're going to get into what that does. So remember when I talked about processed foods? We absorb more calories from foods that are already processed, and they lose nutrients in that processing. So let's take like oatmeal, for example. Oatmeal starts as steel cut oats. So when you eat steel cut oats, you're going to get more nutrition from that food and less calories. It's got a lot more fiber, it's harder to digest, so we absorb less calories from it. Then we go to rolled oats, where we've rolled out the steel cut, the groat, to make it easier to cook. But there we lose some of the fiber, we're losing some of the nutrition, so now we're absorbing more energy from it. And then we have instant oatmeal, which loses even more nutrients, and we absorb all of the calories from that. The same can be said for like an apple. There's an apple, which has more fiber, more nutrients. Then we have apple sauce and then apple juice. Each time we lose nutrients, we're gaining calories. So again, nothing's good or bad. You just want to think about it on that spectrum. The more whole and unprocessed a food is, the better it is for you. And we're not going to eat like that all the time, but if you can eat like that more consistently, you're going to see a lot of benefits. So how does this translate into putting a meal together? Here's an example of what a plate could look like. And keep in mind, this is just one example. Training, your goals, your diet history, those are all going to factor into how much food you could be eating. 3 meals a day, 4 meals a day. Maybe you need a little more starch than this. But this is just an example and can be a good starting place for people. So we have half of our plate with vegetables. Majority of our plate is filled with vegetables. That's going to give us all the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the enzymes, a ton of fiber, and a lot of nutrition. Then we have a good portion of our plate with lean protein. And then the rest is filled with either a starch or a fat. So when we're trying, we want, again, the starch or the fat is our variables. Some people will do better with higher carb, lower fat, and some with the opposite. And that can actually change for you over time. So I always used to be better with higher carb, lower fat. Right now, I'm trying to heal some gut stuff. And so I've been on a higher fat, lower carb and been doing really well with that. So we never want to get stuck in a single minded frame where this is how we are, because that can change as our goals change and as our life changes. So let me give you an example of what this plate could look like. So we think like a chicken salad. So we have a salad with all the veggies, tomatoes, cucumbers, beets, whatever else you like to put on your salad, carrots, celery. Then we have chicken as our protein. And then we can add some avocado and olive oil as our fat. So that would be protein and fat. Or we have the same chicken salad, same veggies. This time we put balsamic dressing on it and half of a sweet potato or some quinoa. So that would be more carb. Another way another example would be to have salmon with roasted vegetables. So when you roast vegetables, you tend to use more fat. So that can be protein and more fat with all of our veggies. Or the same salmon, this time we steam the veggies and we have it with white rice. So those are just a couple of examples of what a plate can look like. But ideally, half the plate's vegetables, majority of it, a good portion of the other side is protein. And then we have the starch and the fat to satisfy us. So the veggies and the protein are going to satiate us. They take away our hunger, but it's the fat or the starch that satisfy us. When we finish a meal, if it's just broccoli and chicken, we may not be hungry, like our stomach's not growling. We don't need food, but we want something. That's where we need that satisfaction as well as being satiated. Eating like this is good for your gut. It manages inflammation, helps regulate your appetite, and it keeps your hormones happy. This is how we lose body fat. So let's talk a little bit about gut health. Your gut health is the foundation for your metabolism. Your gut microbiome, basically all the little bacteria that live in your body, diversity of it, greatly impacts your hormones. So certain gut bacteria will cause estrogen to be recirculated in your body instead of it being excreted. This causes a hormone imbalance. Some gut bacteria produce cortisol, which can keep you up at night. It's a stress hormone. Others affect your energy levels, your mood, anxiety, depression. There's so many studies on how our gut health is directly related to brain fog, fatigue, anxiety, depression. The absorption of your nutrients is determined by your gut health, your metabolism and ability to lose weight. I know this firsthand. I've been really struggling with SIBO, which is the digestive issue that I have. And when my issues are flared, like there's just no way I can expect my body to lose weight because it's under so much stress trying to just process and digest the food that I try to bring in. And my body needs food to function. So if it can't get the nutrients and what it needs to function, it is not going to lose weight. That's not a priority for it at all. So all of these things affect your food choices, and your food choices then affect your gut health. It becomes a cycle. So something has to break, something's got to start. You can be eating all the right things, but if you're not digesting it well, you're not going to get the results. Eating whole foods and fiber with limited processed foods, sugar, alcohol, and limiting your stress all have a positive impact on your gut health and your overall health. Hippocrates was quoted as saying, "All disease begins in the gut," which is exactly why I'm going to be running this free gut health challenge. I want you to feel firsthand what that feels like. So, a couple notes on stress. Women are more sensitive to stress than men. We just are. And as we age, we can become more sensitive to stress. Stress slows down our metabolism. It impacts our thyroid, our sex hormones, adrenal function, and our digestion. Stress is everything that taxes or drains your system. So think mental, physical, emotional. It's not just the boss is yelling at me, I'm stuck in traffic. Exercise can be a stress or a drain if it's inappropriate for where you're at. If you can't recover from it, it becomes a negative stress. Nutrition can be a drain if you're eating too much or too little or not the right quality or quantity. Then we have what we typically think, like financial stress, relationship stress, the boss is yelling at you, kids, sitting in traffic, all of that. But another big stressor is our thoughts. I talked about this earlier. The things that we think, the things that we say to ourselves are a huge, massive drain on our system. And that's one place that you can directly control. It's not going to be easy, but we got to start to be aware of it. Guys, you will not change your body if you hate your body. I promise that. So just like there's no good or bad food, there's no good or bad stress. There's just stress. We need more balance of drains and charges. So all stress ends up ultimately being a drain. We need to balance that with charges. You can think of it like a seesaw. It's kind of a good visual. You need the right amount of stimulus for both to be balanced. When we are chronically stressed, which we are these days, especially with everything that's been going on in the last year, your mood changes, digestion suffers, hormone production, energy and metabolism decline. You hold water and look puffy. All the symptoms I mentioned with metabolic compensation, because that's part of it. The number one thing you can do for yourself today is add more charges to your life. I don't think anyone can tell me they're lacking in the drain side. So we're going to focus on putting in the charges. Go for walks. Watch your exercise intensity. Eat balanced meals. Take a bath. Love yourself. Draw, journal, paint. Self-care. Girls' night out. Go for hikes with your girlfriends. I did that last weekend. It was a great positive. One of the things that's helped me a lot is cold therapy or cryotherapy. So there's a place by me, the Human Optimization Center, which I love. It has all sorts of things to charge your battery. They've got red light, cryotherapy, compression, massage tables, Theragun, something called PEMF, pulse electromagnetic, I forget what it stands for, but it literally like charges your cells. So it's like a battery charger or a human battery charger. So finding things like this that you can incorporate, things that fill your cup up, that make you feel good. Without stress management, there is no longevity in what you're doing. And as women and as mothers, we tend to take care of ourselves last because we feel like it's selfish. We're giving up ourselves for our kids, which is amazing, except you can be a better mother, friend, wife, daughter, sister, everything if you take care of yourself first. So just know that self-care is not selfish. You have to take care of yourself and prioritize some of these things for yourself. Get a babysitter and go out with your girlfriends. It's not about being selfish. It's about prioritizing your health so you can be a better mother for your kids. So how do we listen to our bodies? What does that mean? I used to hate it when people would say, listen to your body, because I had no freaking idea what that meant. So we've got biofeedback. HEC is kind of a good acronym that can remind us about that. Hunger, energy, and cravings. It's easy to remember. There's also SHMEC, which is sleep and mood. There's also libido and menses, but they didn't fit in the acronym, so they're off to the side. So this is how we read our body. It's regulated by our blood sugar and the calories in, calories out formula that we went over earlier. When your metabolism is working properly, you will sleep well. You'll wake up rested. Your hunger cravings go down. You're going to have better energy. You're going to get the weight loss results that you want. You can be getting weight loss results, but if you're not sleeping well, you have severe hunger and cravings, and you're really anxious or depressed, I can promise you that weight loss is going to stall and you're going to end up rebounding. 95% of people who lose weight end up regaining it back. And 66% of those people gain more than what they started with. And that's because they're trying to do too much too fast. So they're reducing calories and increasing exercise. It's too much of a deficit where we need to do it a little more slowly. So rather than eat less and exercise more, I want you to think about eating less, but exercising less, and eating more and exercising more. So with both of these, you can still create a deficit, but you're giving your body what it needs to keep sleep, hunger, mood, energy, and cravings in check. So like for me, when I first started CrossFit, I got lean. I got the leanest that I've ever been, but I lost my period. My sleep was going, my digestion. And the longer I let that go on, the worse it got. And when you dig into that big hole of metabolic compensation and you get deeper in that, it gets harder and harder and harder to come out. And now my body is so sensitive where if I try to cut my calories too much at all, instantly my sleep goes, I have all the problems come right back tenfold. So I have to be really careful about what I do. And it's because of my history with that. And it's why I'm so passionate about helping women understand this and maybe catching younger girls before they start to do this to themselves. So how long you stay in this eat less, exercise less, or eat more, exercise more cycle depends on you and your goals and what your biofeedback markers are doing. But it's nice to bounce between those. So I got my period back when I started eating 3,000 calories a day. And I did not want to eat 3,000 calories a day. In fact, as a coach, I was telling my CrossFit athletes, you need to eat more. I had girls that were competing and they did great with it. But I couldn't get myself to do the same thing. I knew I had to eat more. I knew that's what my problem was, but the diet culture was so stuck in my head that even though I could give the advice, I couldn't take it myself. It wasn't until I found a coach that I trusted and I had a goal to be a power lifter and I had this competition that I was training for that I gave in and did what he said. And I ate 3,000 calories a day. And within 2 months, I got my period back. My sleep got better. I ended up getting a little leaner. So you just have to, sometimes it takes being a coach, having coached, trusting somebody and following the advice that you know you should take, but years of that diet culture sits in our subconscious and it can be really hard to overcome. So currently I'm in an eat less, exercise less phase, and I'm actually feeling the best that I have in, I don't know, maybe 10 years. So you can feel good doing both. You just have to moderate your nutrition with your activity level and your stress. If you have a lot of stress that's draining your battery, you don't need a lot of activity. You don't need a lot of exercise. And this has been really hard for me lately because I love training. I love the gym. I'm only going to the gym twice a week right now, and that's really hard. But my health comes first. I want to feel better more than I want to work out. So while it's hard, I'm sleeping so good, I am not ready to sacrifice that. So what does eat less, exercise less look like? That can look, as a starting place, 3 balanced meals a day, like that plate that I showed you, 2 lifting days a week, like a full body lifting day in the gym, just to kind of maintain your muscle. You're not really trying to gain muscle in an eat less phase. That's not the goal. The goal is to preserve what you have and keep some movement. But you also want lots of walking mixed in with that. So walking for an hour a day if you can. On the other side, eating more and exercising more, that's more like an athlete. Think about 4 balanced meals a day, or maybe 4 plus a snack. So this will vary by person. For me, eat less means 3 meals and a snack because I've got more muscle in my body and I'm used to eating a little bit more. So eat more, exercise more, 4 balanced meals, 4 training days a week, more metabolic type workouts, interval training, but you still want walking for recovery in there. Choose a strategy, give it about 5 to 7 days, and then look at your biofeedback. How's my sleep, hunger, mood, energy, cravings? Am I losing weight as well, if that's your goal? And then you make changes accordingly. Prioritize whole foods, fruits, veggies, prioritize your sleep and your recovery, and know that it's progress that we're after, not perfection. So I know this is where it can get a little overwhelming. Like, where do I start? If you're nowhere near your plate looking like that, it can seem like it's just too much. And when we get overwhelmed, we end up doing nothing. Make it easy on yourself. No stress. I don't want to add any more stress to you. So let me give you 3 things that you can do today to start feeling better. Number 1, and I cheated here because number 1 has 3 things, but I couldn't help it. So increase your protein, increase your veggies, and increase your water. For most people, they're not getting enough of all 3 of these: protein, veggies, and water. And so this can look, you can do this a couple of different ways. Again, we start small. We're on a journey. We're not trying to get there tomorrow. Increase your protein at every meal without even thinking about the veggies and water. Don't think about what you're taking out. Just try to add a little bit more protein. Or maybe you focus on 1 meal at a time. Maybe you're going to take breakfast, add proteins, veggies, and water to that, and then you tackle it that way. But just do it in a way that is easy, that's digestible, that feels like you can do this. And then you stack your wins. You build on your successes. You start to feel a little better already just from doing one little thing, which motivates you more to keep going. Number 2 is to increase walking. Everybody can do better by getting outside, getting some vitamin D, getting in nature. Nature is so healing. Adding that recovery in. The more walking we can do, the better. So that's kind of for stress management. Number 3 is to prioritize our sleep. And this is for your mood, your cravings, your motivation. When you don't sleep, I know this, making good choices the next day is damn near impossible. You don't want protein and veggies. That's hard to digest. It takes longer to cook. You want something that's sweet, carby, because it's instant energy. And the body's going to crave the things that it knows you'll eat. So how do you prioritize your sleep? Having a bedtime routine. Try to go to bed and wake up at the same times in a cold, dark room. Do things that relax you before bed. Yoga, read, journal, practice gratitude. Try not to look at screens before you go to bed. That blue light stimulates our brain and keeps us up. So guys, you can't control your biology, but you can control your choices, right? You can't control the results. You can't control what your body does. All you can control are your choices. So let's recap what we've gone over today. Losing weight is more than eating less and exercising more. Your body fights you if you try to go too fast. And recovery from this is hard. It takes a long time. You're going to have major problems. Food matters. What we put in our body matters. And the macronutrient breakdown matters. Eating the same amount of calories in protein, eating the same amount of calories in carbs, your body has 2 very different responses, and it's going to handle those calories very differently. Prioritize protein and vegetables at your meals, and play with the carb and fat ratio and see what you do better with. Protect your metabolism by listening to your biofeedback. Heck and schmeck, hunger, energy, cravings, sleep, and mood. Your body is constantly changing. As you get older, it changes. As our goals change, as our life changes, You need to keep reading these signals to know if what you're doing is working. Gut health and stress management are major players in feeling good and changing your body. And food affects both of these. What you eat, the toxins and chemicals you're exposed to, and how you think are big factors. Being healthy and happy takes all of these things. It's a lifestyle. It's not one thing. It's not some secret pill. It's not the best exercise program. It's a combination of all of this. It's eating right. It's exercising. It's having a good mindset. But you have to start with one thing at a time. If we try to tackle it all, again, depending on where we're coming from, it can seem really overwhelming. My tagline at NextGen is mindset, movement, and makeup, which means mind, body, soul. And that's because that's what I believe. You can't change your body if you hate your body, even if you're doing all the right things. You can't love your body and eat right, but do no movement and exercise. You have to have all of it, some combination of all of it. So I want you all to leave with a takeaway. So I want you to tell me in the chat one thing that you're going to change after this talk. Like, what is one takeaway that you've gotten today that you can implement right away? Put it in the chat for me. Guys, the only proven method to work for weight loss and keeping it off is lifestyle change, changing your habits. Your energy is your most valuable resource. What's your investment strategy in that? It can seem hard to change lifestyle, but again, we take it in smaller steps. You make it really digestible. You don't have to get there tomorrow. It's one small thing at a time. You learn each time as you step forward. It's the journey. So to help you get started, I want to lead this 2-week gut healing challenge. It's going to start May 1st. It's not meant to treat gut diseases, right? This isn't a treatment protocol. It's just meant to reset your gut, get you to eat better for a couple weeks and really notice how good you feel. The Whole30 is one that maybe a lot of people are familiar with. It's a very restrictive diet that people will do for 30 days. But the idea behind it is to see how much food, like food is not just for the way we look. It affects all of the things that you want to change. So I'm going to give you a 2-week meal plan with the challenge, some supplements, suggested supplements to take. And again, I'm not healing anything. We're talking like digestive enzymes, things that are really safe for all people to take. So if you're interested, there's my email. I want you to email me and let me know that you're interested in the gut health challenge. I'm going to respond, ask you a few questions, make sure you're a good fit, and then I will send you the details. So here's all of my contact info. Let me see if I can get the chat up here. Here it is. So did you guys have any, thank you, any questions for me?
Okay, quick question. On the vegetables, are all vegetables equal, or are we talking leafy green vegetables and not starchy vegetables?
Yeah, so all vegetables are game here, right? And this is where we get into we try to overcomplicate things. Well, should I eat carrots? Are they higher in carb, or beets or whatever? No, all vegetables are game. So now things like potatoes, sweet potato, plantain, those are considered more starch, right? They are a vegetable, but they've got more starch, more calories to them. And you want a variety of vegetables. Ideally, in a perfect world, we eat what's locally grown and in season. Going to the farmer's market, who likes to go to the farmer's market? Anybody? The farmer's market is a great place to find things that are local and in season, plus most of them are organic. One of the things that I've done since moving to California is I'll go to the farmer's markets and buy something that I have no idea what it is. And guys, there's a lot of things at the farmer's market that I have no idea what it is. But I come home and I literally Google how to cook it, how to make it. And I've learned like several new foods that I like by doing that. So great question. all veggies are a go.
And in preparing those veggies, are all preparations a go?
Yeah, so this is where I was talking about when we make the plate, if because some ways we prepare veggies, we use more fat, right? So if we are having a meal that is just protein and veggies and we want to roast the veggies in our fat and we're not going to have a starch with that meal, then we start there. When we're trying to learn what our body likes, like fat or carbs, we want to try to separate the fat and the starch just so we can kind of read. Like try a week with just protein, veggies, and fats, little starches, and see how your body feels. Or try a week where you have less fat and more starches. And so if you're doing more starches and less fat, you would want to cook your veggies with less oils. That doesn't mean no oils, right? This isn't all or nothing, but just don't dump oils on your veggies. Does that make sense, or was that more confusing?
No, totally makes sense.
Okay. What else? I got any other questions? Awesome. Well, if there's no,
Wait, I think I have a question. I was just trying to figure out how to word it. So I think like portion wise, when I think about that plate on the starch and the fat, I guess what's really hard is you look at the box, say you're making rice and you look at the box and 1 cup of rice is 200 calories.
Mhm.
So are we aiming at 1 cup of rice for that little tiny triangle section, or what is less? Like, how do you gauge that?
So if we start with the protein and the veggies, we want to think about filling ourselves up with that. When you think about starches, start with like a half a cup, roughly. Again, this is just, so start with that and see how you feel. Does that leave you totally hungry? In an hour, are you craving something? Because that means you didn't get enough of that meal. If that meal sustains you for 2 to 3 hours, then you found the right amount. And sometimes that changes. Like for me, I can get away with lower carb right now, but when we went on a long hike that one day, I needed to eat more carbs that day because my body needed to refuel. So and this is trial and error and just learning. Start with a half cup, and then adding more could mean adding 1/4 of a cup to that. Or add more protein and veggies first, see if that satiates you, fills you up, keeps your hunger, cravings, energy. Because ultimately, we want more of the protein in the veggies than we do the fat and the starch, if weight loss is our goal, especially, right? So it's just kind of try it, see how your body responds, how your hunger, energy, mood, cravings, all of that respond, and then either add or take away or add protein. That makes sense? Yeah. Anybody else? I'm going to stop the screen share so I can see more people. Awesome. I will stop the recording.